Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate you. Make sure to subscribe, like and share if the videos resonate with you, and also to join my mailing list. Quick information on this weekend I will be making an announcement about my channel, so just stay tuned for that. And with all of this being said, today I am joined again by Jeff Brown, and I really wanted to connect with Jeff to get some freshest updates from France and what's going on over there. So welcome back, Jeff.
Thank you, Anya. Lovely to be on your show as always.
Please tell me what is going on now with the situation in France, with Macron, vote of confidence, anything you can tell us. I'm listening.
I'm ready to tell you. There were legislative elections. Macron does not have a supermajority like he has had for the last 5 years. The Le Pen, the national, basically the ex-National Front now, the Rally for the Nation, the RN, and then there's another group, conservative, and then Mélenchon's group, you know, the left, have taken away from him a supermajority where he could, you know, pass legislation at will. But let's be honest, Anya, for the last, since Hollande in 2012, there has been no legislation in France. They have been like emperors, passing laws by fiat, because Hollande started the Patriot War, the George W. Bush Patriot War Act in France, declaring France is in martial law, and this has not stopped since 2012. I mean, this has been going on now for 10 years. So although it looks good on paper, that, well, he no longer has a supermajority, but it doesn't really matter because he can continue to pass laws by fiat like an emperor, like a Roman emperor. He can just pass laws as he has been doing for the last 5 years, and Hollande did for 5 years. So it's basically window dressing to make us look like we're living in a democracy, but we're not. We're living in an autocratic system where Macron, and it's funny, his initials are EM, Emperor Macron, and that's where we're at. And I don't know what's going on in Poland, but Ursula von der Leyen has already said the EU has got it all set up. In September, they're going to reinstate the masking. They're going to reinstate the what I call the Nazi pass, the vaccine pass. They're going to go into shutting down small businesses, putting millions of more businesses out of work. This is all being laid out, and I'm just extremely frustrated. I'm just so frustrated, and the yellow vests have been completely expunged from the media, and so I just don't know what to tell you.
Jeff, let me ask you this. Okay, let's start with yellow vest you just mentioned. Then I want to go back to my first question. But let me ask you this. So there are protests, right? Yellow vest protests going on.
Yes, but they do not exist in the media. And my friend James Bradley, he says, he jokes, if it's not on TV, it's not true, and if it's on TV, it's true. They're not on TV, and so they have been completely expunged. Any protest and violently suppressed. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of yellow vests have been injured, seriously injured, have had to go to the hospital, losing eyes, fingers, hands, arms, brain damage from, shooting rubber bullets at people's heads, at faces, etc. I would like to, I am reading, and this is very timely that you asked about the yellow vests, Ania, because I'm reading a really, really good book. You can see I'm about
what is, I don't see the title. What is it?
It's called France's Yellow Vests, and then the subtitle is Western Repression of the West's Best Values, and it's by Ramin Mazaheri. It's in French, it's in English, and it's also an ebook in English on Amazon. I really, really, really recommend that people buy this and read it, because it's not just about France. What he is pointing out, Ania, and what you and I are talking about, this has been going on for centuries. This has been going on for centuries. And the French Revolution in 1789 was the great revolt against this Western liberal, autocratic, oppressive, censoring, aristocratic, elite governance of Western civilization. This goes back to the ancient Greeks. This goes back after that to the Roman Empire. Then we had the church, and then after the church we had monarchy. And so this goes back a long time, and it's really, really good. The first half is about this history, when I'm almost finished. And then the second half, which I haven't gotten to, is about the yellow vests. And so,
Jeff, can I ask you here? So they are protesting in Paris or all across France in different cities?
Well, there are small. I don't know, because it's suppressed. I don't know. I mean, there's still protests. I mean, my wife and I, there are protests in our provincial capital in Caen. 20 or 30 people are showing up. I mean, the spirit is out there. The yellow vest spirit is out there, but people are just, I think, exhausted. They let the totalitarian boot off of our necks. The COVID, boot off of our necks, for a couple of 3 months, this summer. But they're gonna, just like, Bitterman's chart of control. They're gonna, they let us feel good, for a few months this summer, and then they're gonna come back down, and of course they're gonna hammer down with the curfews.
But Jeff, wait.
So we can't protest at all.
We see how this goes, because when I look at Sri Lanka, I wonder how far European, well, because what's the thing, the citizens haven't really felt yet the consequences of the sanctions that European Union put on Russia. So now when this will really, when summer is over, when it's getting colder, all of this coming together, and I just wonder, because if they are going to do the same in France, if people will literally, and they have been protesting for all those few last years frequently, with a huge amount of people joining those protests. So I think, I mean, do you feel like this might be, I don't want to say revolution, but in a way, people will stand up to much, much stronger extent when they will start to feel, the hardship more?
That is, as they said back in the 1950s in the United States, the $64,000 question on that game show called the $64,000 question in the United States. Ania, that's key. I mean, in fact, James Bradley and I just did a show this morning before I talked to you about Sri Lanka and the nexus between Sri Lanka and the Netherlands. and how that now that the Dutch farmers are trying to stand up to this Western totalitarian World Economic Forum, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, techno-totalitarian COVID pandemic. I mean, they are really working hard to turn us into a totalitarian Orwellian dystopia. And Sri Lanka, bought into this, 4 or 5 years ago, and now they're out of food. Trying to shut, now they're trying to close down Holland's agriculture, a real superpower. I mean, in agriculture, you're in Poland, an agricultural superpower with over $100 billion of agricultural exports in a country the size of Switzerland.
Yes.
And it's all animal agriculture, meat, eggs, dairy, pork, cattle.
Yes. And can I surprise you now? So Poland, beautiful country, flowers all over the place. I'm getting my flowers, and the lady who sells them, by the way, Ukrainian from escaping the 2014 war, the first escape.
Yeah.
She says that the lady who owns the place brings it from Holland. And I said, excuse me, we have so many flowers here. Why are you bringing them from Holland? But you see, even the flowers, Jeff, sorry to interrupt you. Even the flowers.
Yeah. So they want to shut all that. Well, I guess they don't mind the flowers, but they definitely want to try to destroy Holland's animal agriculture, because it is difficult to control animal agriculture. I mean, it's easy to corner the grain and capture grain, but 98% of animal agriculture is very local, small farmers, dairy farmers, pork farmer, pig farmers, poultry farmers, etc.
Yes.
And it's also hard to capture the processing, because you and I both know we can go to the local market in Poland and France and buy local eggs, local cheese, local meat, local milk, etc. So they're trying to, they're working at it. And Sri Lanka is kind of is several years ahead of us, but now they're going to try to turn in the Netherlands into a Sri Lanka where they're out of food and it's chaos. We've got to, something has to happen, because if they can break the back, if they can destroy animal agriculture and destroy the second largest agricultural exporter in the world, Holland, after the United States, and it's all high dollar stuff, then they're going to come after the breadbasket of Europe, which is France. Here it's all wheat, barley, corn, and colza, for vegetable oil, walled oil for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. That's all France is. It's grain production. Of course, and a lot of animal production too, of course, but this is they are now going after the food supply. I don't know, I'm sure you've read dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of small and medium-sized food processors and food storage facilities in North America have gone up in smoke, have been destroyed. They're trying to destroy the food chain, the food supply chain. They're trying to destroy the small farmers. They're trying to destroy the small processors. They're trying to consolidate and control the food chain, as Henry Kissinger said during all of his the millions and millions of people that he helped kill around the world in his career. If you control food, you can control the people, and this is what they're trying to do. It was okay when they did it to brown-skinned people in the colonies and in the developing world, but now they're coming after us. They're coming after their own people, and this is where we're at. This is beyond France. This is
Yeah.
This is global.
But I want to go back to that, what took place in Sri Lanka again, because from one side, it clearly shows what they have done already. But on the other side, it also shows how citizens responded. And my point here is this. Because humans are unpredictable and they cannot predict what will be the response from the societies in Europe. They don't know. I mean, look, Holland is responding. You know, how far this will go, how I'm saying, I truly, Jeff, and I am fully aware what's taking place as far as what they are trying to force on everyone. But at the same time, I believe that people are not going to allow it.
Well, it's going to have to come to that because, you know, what's going to happen when there's now, you know, starvation in Sri Lanka. You know, they're already talking about, you know, trying to set up, you know, warming tents in Germany this winter, you know, for people to go warm themselves, and, you know, gas rationing. They're talking about, you know, shutting down the largest chemical plant in the world, BASF, 40,000 employees. You know, Germany, France is the food basket of.
It's crazy.
Is the food basket of Europe. Germany is the manufacturing superpower of Europe. And now they're talking about closing down the BAS factory complex with 40,000 employees because they can't get gas, because they want to try to destroy Russia so they can destroy China. It's, you know, we're seeing sort of the end game of, you know, 500 years of global capitalism, and capitalism, imperialism, and it's just it's reaching its end. I don't know if you saw that speech by Putin where he was talking to I think the Duma, and he said, you know, the West is going to go down, and basically he said the West is going to go down in flames with Ukraine, and that the end of this Western global capitalist imperialist tyranny is going to crash, and we will now enter a new win-win, mutually beneficial, more sharing, more holistic, more socialist governance of the planet. And so, you know, I think people realize it's happening, but you and I and a lot of other people around the world, the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all the what Putin calls the golden billion, you know, the wealthiest, the billion, you know, wealthy people around the world. You know, we're it's going to probably get worse for us before it gets better, but I think long term, the beginning of Western, you know, tyranny over the planet's, you know, human and natural resources is coming to an end, and that's good news. We need to be optimistic.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you here, going back to France, what would have to happen in this current situation for Macron to be gone?
Well, we're stuck with Macron. You know, even he was even caught with Uber. You know, for those of you who don't know what Uber is a taxi service all around the world. They were kicked out of China. Well, actually, Didi bought them out. Thank goodness. And typical Western capitalism, corrupt. They were bribing Macron, paying him to do his, you know, to serve Uber's interests in France. There's The Guardian got a hold of 175,000 pages of documents from Uber, you know, emails, etc. Uber was corrupting leaders around Europe for them to be able to do their business. That you know, at least in the West, 20 or 30 years ago, that would have been enough to have gotten rid of for Macron to be run out of office. Not anymore. Look at Boris Johnson. He hung on for years and years and years. A total buffoon. I mean, a complete and total buffoon. And he only finally got, asked to leave, and he finally resigned. We're stuck with Macron for five more years. I'm sorry to say, and then we're going to have more rigged elections. That I now know that the French electoral system. I mean, it's not in the United States, but I found out that 82 municipalities in France have electronic voting machines. So about 20% of France now has electronic voting machines, which means they can make those machines spit out whatever results they want. What's going to have to happen, Ania, is that the protests are going to have to be so amplified that the big lie propaganda, what I call the big lie propaganda machine, the West propaganda machine can no longer hide it, and it's on our streets and your streets, and it's happening everywhere, and not just on Saturdays, which is what's happening right now. So I think a big test is going to be obviously this winter, when Poland has no gas, Germany has no gas, we're running out of food. Inflation is now way it's much worse than the official figures. And I think this winter will be a big test. And he got away with Uber. He has been getting away with making the French poorer and poorer and poorer for the last 5 years. Social services are being destroyed. The medical system is being destroyed. Hollande did the same thing for 5 years. Sarkozy gave France back to NATO, so now France is under NATO control. And so, everybody right now, nothing's going to happen in France because everybody's on vacation. Nothing happens in July and August in France.
Yeah, I remember Paris was always empty in July.
Oh yeah. It's a desert. It's a desert. It's a desert. Yes. And it will be until September. Then they're going to come out with with the totalitarian masking and all that in September and October. Then the Nazi pass for people to try to do and then shutting down small businesses. The economy's been terribly weakened after 2 years of destroying millions of small and medium-sized enterprises all across Europe. And now even more millions will go out of business. People don't realize how entrepreneurial Europe is. I mean, there are millions of mom and pop operations. I'm sure the same thing is true in Poland. There's just millions of one person, two person, family-owned businesses, little shops, small farms, and they took a huge hit. Millions of them were put out of work. And now that they're going to do it again this fall, and at some point there's got to be a tipping point at some point where
absolutely
the whole thing just implodes, like Sri Lanka. And
I think
can the people overcome all that and create a better world?
That hardship people will go through will bring those governments down. Yeah. So if this is the price for people to pay to finally change those schmucks, and now the question is, are people ready to replace them with the right people?
Yeah.
Because you know, they have been replacing each other, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Just keep on replacing one another, and it's the same story, just in different packaging at first.
Yeah.
So now let me ask you last question. As far as, do you think that Le Pen will ever be in the position, because I know that her saying now is more important because of this percentage of, I don't know how you say this in France, the like when they are voting now, like Macron has to go to her in a way for say yes to certain ideas that he has, right? Otherwise it will not pass.
No, that's not true, because
No?
since Hollande, since martial law, France has been under martial law for the last 10 years. Hollande, you know, when he had a supermajority, you know, even then in the last 5 years, it was like kabuki theater. It was like they kind of went through the motions and they did a few votes and they had the legislatures on television. But at the end of the day, he passed almost all of the laws in the last 5 years by imperial diktat. I mean, by imperial, you know, dictate. And so, I'm sorry to say, no, he doesn't have to. I mean, Mélenchon got much more in his group. They got much more than Le Pen. They got like 3 times as much. Well, no, 2.5 times as much as Le Pen. They don't have to consult them. All he has to do is just rule by imperial decree, and that's what he will do for the next 5 years. And it's basically what's been happening in France for the last 10 years.
So it's like executive order, right? Like in United States.
Executive order. You know, the Constitution in France and the United States, and I don't know which other countries adopted the Patriot Act, but France has. They have basically, when they adopted the Patriot Act here in 2012, the Constitution was null and void, and it still is null and void. And at least under Hollande, they rubber stamped every 6 months. They had to renew the martial law. And then under Macron, they even, because he had a supermajority, they didn't even have to rubber stamp the 6-month rollover of martial law. Now it's permanent. So France has basically been a police state for the last 10 years, a totalitarian police state for the last 10 years. There's a lot, obviously, nobody wants to admit that. There's a lot of denial, a lot of cognitive dissonance among the people, liberté, égalité, fraternité, and all that. But I'm sorry, my friend, my fellow French citizens, it's been over for 10 years, and no amount of rigged elections can, the American expression, no amount of rigged elections and can put enough lipstick on this pig to cover up the truth that we no longer live in a democracy. And you and I can take hope, because at the end of the day, all totalitarian systems eventually collapse. And we are essentially, and with the European Union and the super agency in Brussels, passing these, aristocratic, elitist, non-democratic, non-popular, against the people rules and regulations. This can't go on forever. And
they know they are falling, Jeff. They know they are falling. Yeah. That's why they are trying so hard. We know this. That's why they are trying so hard. But I want to thank you for connecting today, and let's enjoy this summer. Let's get energy for the fall and winter from this summer. And I want to ask where people can find you, where they can read your articles and watch the videos. I will attach the links below, but if you can just mention it.
Yeah, it's www.chinarising.puntopress.com. But if anywhere on any Google, any search engine, if you just put China Rising, Jeff or Radio Sinoland Jeff, all my stuff all pops up. But yeah, China Rising, Radio Sinoland, Sinoland, and I'm all over the place. I have YouTube, I've got Brighteon, and etc.
You have your books,
I have my books. Yeah, my books are on Amazon. I have my author page on Amazon. So yeah, just Jeff J. Brown, China Rising on Amazon, and all my books pop up on my author channel. So anyway, thank you for having me on. We've got to stay
Jeff.
positive. You know,
yes.
we've got to stay positive, and at some point, this, you know, and at some point, you know, Sri Lanka is going to pull out of this eventually. A lot of people may die of starvation, but this cannot go on forever, and it may get a lot worse before it gets better. But there is a better future with visionary leaders like Putin, Xi Jinping. You know, we've got, you know, Iran, and there's their socialism. There are some really wise leaders out there, and we need, and they are our hope.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much.
I will promote your channel when I get to YouTube link.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Lots of love.